Something happens at 3 a.m. while you sleep, and most people never realize it. An unseen battle begins in the spiritual realm, targeting one thing in your life: your money, your provision, your future. What if I told you there are rituals performed in the darkness specifically designed to drain financial blessings from people who are completely unaware? An ex-witch once revealed a disturbing truth: that many attacks on prosperity happen while the victim is peacefully asleep. Tonight, those hidden operations are being exposed. There is a moment in the night when spiritual darkness becomes unusually active. Not midnight, not 2 a.m., but 3 a.m. Many who once practiced witchcraft admit that this hour is chosen for a specific reason. It is the moment when many people are in their deepest sleep, when their spiritual awareness is at its lowest, and when certain rituals are believed to carry the strongest influence. While you are asleep, unaware, breathing peacefully, some rituals are designed with one goal: to tamper with the flow of your provision. You must understand something many people never realize. Spiritual warfare is rarely random. Attacks often focus on the area of life that sustains you. And one of the most targeted areas is money. Not simply cash, but opportunity, promotion, unexpected favor, business growth, financial stability. The enemy knows something important. When a person's finances collapse, fear grows, stress increases, faith weakens, and pressure begins to dominate their life. That is why certain occult practices are believed to focus directly on financial sabotage. Former practitioners have described ceremonies where specific names are spoken during nighttime rituals. Sometimes photographs are used, sometimes written names, sometimes symbolic representations. The intention is not always dramatic or obvious. Instead, it is subtle, quiet, strategic. The goal is to create spiritual resistance around the person's financial path. You may have seen the effects without realizing the source. You apply for opportunities that should work, but something always blocks them. Money arrives, then suddenly disappears through unexpected problems. A promotion seems guaranteed, then suddenly it goes to someone else. You work harder and harder, but nothing seems to multiply. It feels like something invisible keeps closing doors. This is what many former occult insiders claim those rituals aim to create: a cycle of financial frustration, not total destruction, because total destruction would raise alarm. Instead, the attack creates continuous setbacks, just enough pressure to keep you struggling, just enough delay to make you question your future, just enough loss to make you wonder why progress never lasts. But here is what is critical for you to understand. Spiritual attacks cannot operate freely where spiritual authority is present. Many people unknowingly leave their finances spiritually unguarded. They protect their home, they protect their family, they pray for health, but they rarely pray over their financial gates. And that silence creates vulnerability. Those who once practiced in dark systems say they often targeted people who had no spiritual covering over their resources, no prayer over their income, no declaration over their work, no authority spoken over their financial future. Because where there is silence, interference becomes easier. But the moment a person becomes aware, everything changes. Awareness disrupts hidden operations. Authority breaks silent attacks. And faith blocks what darkness tries to plant. You must begin to guard the areas of your life that sustain you, not from fear, but from spiritual awareness. If financial resistance has followed you for years, if opportunities seem to disappear just when success is near, if money flows out faster than it comes in, do not automatically assume the struggle is only natural. Sometimes battles are deeper than they appear. But there is powerful truth every believer must remember. Darkness may attempt interference, but it has no ultimate authority. Authority belongs to the one who knows their spiritual position. When you begin to pray intentionally over your finances, when you declare protection over your income, when you speak life over your work, you begin closing doors that hidden attacks depend on. And the same hour that some use for darkness can become the hour where your protection is activated. Many people wake up around 3 a.m. without understanding why. Some call it coincidence, others call it sleep disturbance. But spiritually aware believers often treat that moment differently. They pray, they declare protection, they take authority. Because the moment darkness attempts interference, light can respond with greater power. And when spiritual authority is exercised, rituals lose their influence. Attacks lose their direction, and what was meant to drain your resources begins to collapse. But the midnight financial drain ritual is only the first strategy many insiders have revealed. There are deeper operations, more calculated methods, and hidden manipulations that target prosperity in ways most people never imagine. And the next revelation may explain why some people experience sudden financial reversals that seem impossible to explain. Before we continue, there is another operation that former occult practitioners have spoken about, and it is far more calculated than most people realize. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not happen in public. It happens quietly, intentionally, and it targets something very specific in your life, your financial gates. In spiritual terms, a gate is any doorway through which blessings enter your life. Your job is a gate. Your business is a gate. Your clients are a gate. Your investments are a gate. Even the connections that lead to opportunity are gates. Every person has these gates. And according to testimonies from those who once operated in dark systems, rituals are designed to mark these gates for obstruction, not destruction. Obstruction. The goal is to place spiritual resistance at the entrance of your provision. You might still work, you might still earn money, but the flow becomes restricted. Promotion slows down. Opportunities pass by. Unexpected expenses appear at the exact moment progress begins. It feels like something unseen is standing at the door of your blessing, turning things away before they reach you. Former insiders have described ceremonies performed at night where symbolic acts are carried out to represent the closing of someone's financial path. Sometimes objects are used to represent the person's work. Sometimes coins or paper currency are placed in ritual circles. Sometimes names are spoken repeatedly during the process. The intention behind these actions is simple: to create a spiritual signal that says, block this person's increase. Now, whether someone believes in these practices or not, many people have experienced patterns that are difficult to explain naturally. Think about the moments in your life where everything seemed ready to shift. The opportunity was perfect, the timing was perfect, your preparation was complete. But suddenly something happened that made no sense. The contract disappeared. The partner backed out. The investment collapsed. The deal was delayed again and again and again and again. It felt like something invisible kept interfering at the last second. This is the pattern that many former practitioners say those rituals attempt to create: chronic delay, because delay weakens confidence. Delay drains energy. Delay causes people to abandon the path that would have eventually led to breakthrough. The strategy is psychological as much as spiritual. If someone can be pushed into frustration long enough, they may give up on their own future. But here is the truth that destroys that strategy. Spiritual gates can also be reopened, and the authority to open them does not belong to darkness. It belongs to the one who stands in faith. Many people do not realize that they have the ability to speak life over their financial gates. Not casually, not weakly, but with conviction. Your words carry authority when they align with faith. When you declare that your work will prosper, you are opening a gate. When you pray over your business, you are strengthening a gate. When you refuse to accept cycles of delay, you are pushing against the resistance placed there. And something powerful happens when awareness meets authority. The moment you begin intentionally covering your financial paths in prayer, protection begins to rise around them. The gates that once seemed blocked begin to shift. Opportunities begin to reappear. Connections begin to form. Favor begins to surface in unexpected ways. Because the spiritual realm responds to alignment and authority. Darkness depends on secrecy. It depends on ignorance. It depends on people never realizing that attacks may be happening in unseen places. But the moment someone becomes aware, the strategy begins to collapse. Imagine a thief trying to enter a house where the lights suddenly turn on. The moment visibility increases, the operation becomes risky. This is why awareness matters so deeply. When you begin guarding your financial gates spiritually, you remove the advantage that hidden attacks depend on. You begin to declare that your income is protected, your opportunities are protected, your work is protected, and that declaration changes the atmosphere surrounding your provision. But there is something even more disturbing that former insiders have revealed. Some rituals do not simply attempt to block financial gates. They attempt to redirect prosperity away from a person entirely. And this next strategy may explain why some people work tirelessly, yet watch others receive the rewards that should have been theirs. Before we expose that revelation, there is a darker strategy that some former practitioners have described, one that goes beyond blocking financial gates. It attempts something even more disturbing: redirection, not just stopping prosperity, but diverting it. According to testimonies from ex-occult insiders, certain rituals are performed with the intention of spiritually rerouting favor, opportunity, and financial increase away from one person and toward another. In other words, the goal is not simply to slow you down. The goal is to make someone else receive what was meant for you. This is where many people begin to notice strange patterns in their lives. You work tirelessly on a project. You invest your time. You sacrifice sleep. You build the idea. You develop the strategy. Everything points towards success. And then suddenly someone else appears and receives the reward, the promotion, the recognition, the contract, the breakthrough. And you are left standing there wondering what happened. It feels as though the outcome was taken from your hands at the final moment. For many people, these experiences create deep confusion. They start questioning their ability, their preparation, their worth. But former insiders claim that some rituals aim precisely at creating that moment, a moment where favor is diverted, where doors that should open for you suddenly swing open for someone else. In those systems, the ritual symbolism is often based on the idea of transfer. Objects representing wealth or success may be moved from one place to another during the ceremony. Names may be spoken during the act to symbolize the shift of prosperity from one individual to another. The belief behind the ritual is that spiritual influence can redirect the path of blessing. Whether people accept those practices as real or symbolic, the emotional impact on the targeted person is very real. Because when breakthroughs repeatedly slip away, something begins to happen inside the mind. You start expecting disappointment. You stop believing the opportunity will work. You approach success with hesitation instead of confidence. And that internal shift becomes another layer of limitation. This is exactly what those strategies depend on. They do not only aim to manipulate circumstances, they aim to weaken your expectation of victory. Because once expectation dies, many people stop pursuing the very opportunities that would have changed their lives. But here is the truth that every spiritually aware person must hold firmly. What belongs to you cannot be permanently stolen. Delay may happen. Interference may attempt to appear. But true destiny cannot be erased by hidden rituals. The moment you understand your authority, you begin reclaiming the territory that was challenged. And one of the most powerful actions you can take is refusing to surrender your expectation of increase. Faith is not passive. Faith is a declaration that what was promised for your life will not disappear. It will not be diverted. It will not be reassigned. When you speak over your future with conviction, you begin correcting the atmosphere around your opportunities. You are essentially declaring, my prosperity will not be redirected. My favor will not be stolen. My work will produce the harvest it was meant to produce. This type of spiritual confidence changes how you move through life. Instead of approaching opportunities with fear, you approach them with authority. Instead of expecting disappointment, you expect doors to open. And that shift begins to dismantle the psychological weight that repeated setbacks often create. Former insiders often say something interesting about the people they could not easily target. Those individuals had one thing in common. They were spiritually aware and spiritually vocal. They prayed over their lives. They declared protection over their paths. They refused to accept the idea that their future could be manipulated without resistance. And that resistance created a barrier, because the spiritual realm responds strongly to confident faith. The moment a person begins actively guarding their destiny, interference becomes far more difficult. This is why awareness is such a powerful defense. When you know that your prosperity is valuable, you begin protecting it intentionally. You guard your opportunities. You guard your focus. You guard your belief in the future you are building. But there is still one more strategy that former practitioners have spoken about, and it may be the most unsettling of all, because some rituals are not aimed at money itself. They are aimed at something deeper, the mindset that attracts prosperity in the first place. And when that mindset is attacked, financial struggles often follow naturally. Before we uncover that final revelation, there is one strategy former occult practitioners have spoken about that many people overlook completely. It does not begin with your bank account. It does not begin with your job. It does not begin with your opportunities inside your mind. Because the mind is the command center of your life. Every financial decision you make flows through it. Every opportunity you pursue is first accepted or rejected there. Every risk you take, every step of faith you make, every dream you chase is first approved in your thinking. And those who once operated in dark systems understood something very dangerous. If the mindset of prosperity can be weakened, financial collapse often follows without any direct attack on money itself. Instead of targeting your income directly, the strategy becomes far more subtle. It targets your confidence. Former insiders have described rituals that symbolically focus on planting confusion, fear, and doubt into the thinking of the person being targeted. The intention is not simply to cause loss. The intention is to reshape how the person sees their own future. Imagine someone who once believed strongly in their ability to succeed. They were bold. They took initiative. They pursued opportunities without hesitation. But over time, something changes. Fear slowly begins creeping into their decisions. They begin second-guessing every step. They hesitate before pursuing opportunities that once would have excited them. They talk themselves out of risks that could have changed their life. They delay decisions again and again. Eventually, something else begins to appear: self-limitation. The person no longer needs external resistance. Their own thoughts begin blocking their progress. They begin saying things like, maybe success just isn't for me. Maybe I'm not meant to prosper. Maybe I should just settle. And once those words begin living in someone's thinking, the battle becomes much easier for darkness, because the person unknowingly begins participating in their own limitation. This is why the attack on mindset is considered one of the most effective strategies. It transforms a confident person into a hesitant one, a visionary into a doubter, a builder into someone who constantly delays action. But here is the truth that destroys that entire strategy. Your mind is not defenseless. Your mindset can be guarded just like any other part of your life. And the first step is recognizing the difference between wisdom and fear. Wisdom evaluates opportunities carefully. Fear paralyzes you completely. Wisdom asks questions. Fear shuts down the conversation before it even begins. When fear begins dominating your financial thinking, it slowly erodes your willingness to pursue growth. And that is exactly what hidden attacks attempt to create. A person who stops reaching, a person who stops believing, a person who stops building. But the moment awareness enters the picture, something powerful happens. You begin confronting those thoughts directly. You stop accepting every negative idea that enters your mind as truths. You begin replacing them with declarations that align with faith and purpose. Instead of saying, I will probably fail, you begin saying, I am capable of growth. Instead of saying, this opportunity will never work, you begin saying, I will pursue what is placed in front of me with courage. This shift is not motivational talk. It is spiritual resistance, because your mindset shapes your movement, and your movement shapes your outcomes. When your thinking becomes strong again, you begin moving toward opportunity with clarity and confidence. You begin taking steps that fear once blocked. You begin building again, creating again, pursuing again. And that forward movement begins restoring the financial flow that hesitation once stopped. Many people spend years fighting financial battles without realizing the war was quietly happening inside their thoughts. But once the mind is guarded, the path begins opening again. Confidence returns, vision returns, energy returns. And the same person who once felt stuck begins moving toward breakthrough again. That is why protecting your mindset is one of the most powerful defenses you possess. Because when your thinking remains strong, no hidden strategy can permanently hold your future hostage. Now you know the truth many people never hear. Darkness may attempt hidden attacks, but it cannot defeat someone who walks in awareness and authority. Your provision is not defenseless. Your future is not unguarded. When you stand in faith, protect your mindset, and declare authority over your life, every silent strategy begins to collapse. What was meant to block you will fail. What was meant to delay you will break. And the prosperity that belongs to your destiny will rise with unstoppable power.